Hi, this is Zach with Warner Wound. Today I'll be taking a look at the Orient Sparta. This is a military-inspired automatic watch by the brand that is very affordable. They're, probably one of our favorite affordable mechanical watch brands because they execute, very well-built, nicely designed watches at a great price point. So this watch retails for $280, but with a coupon code you can get it for 30% less, which comes to $196. And for that, you're getting, an in-house Japanese-made mechanical automatic movement with very interesting kind of design features. Most notably is this wide day function, so day and date in this watch, as well as, bezel and really nice styling all around. So let's take a closer look. The design of the Orient Sparta case is pretty straightforward, but has just enough kind of interesting little features to make it unique and quite attractive, I think. It is a kind of a medium to large size. It measures 42.5 in diameter, 48 millimeters from lug to lug, about 12 millimeters thick, and has a 22 millimeter lug width. So, it's definitely not small, but it's not huge. And I think, for a watch with this styling as well as a watch with a bezel, it is an appropriate size. And I think it's actually a very nice wearable size as well. So clearly the most kind of standout feature of the case design is really the bezel, which is a little bit, different for something with a pilot kind of field style to it. It's a little unexpected, but I think it really works nicely, especially because of how it's made. So as you can see, it's a, solid steel, brushed steel with kind of a milled out markings here that have then been painted in black. So there's no lume present. Which might not make it like a functional dive watch, but it's really not a dive watch style. So it works with the like I said, the pilot field look. It is rotating and it is unidirectional. So you can turn it and it clicks in quite nicely. It is a little sort of like gooey feeling. I want to say like there's a little bit of a resistance in there, so it's not quite a clean snap, but it is precise and there's more than enough resistance that it's not going to be turning on its own at all. Looking at the bezel from the side now, you can actually see that the texturing on the side is this kind of crisscross diamond pattern, which I think is really nice. It adds some needed texture to the case, but it's also functional in how it feels. It helps you grip it quite nicely. There's a little detail here, it might be tricky to see, but where the top surface of the bezel meets that the side is a slight bevel and a tiny bit of polishing. So you do get a nice little glint of light here and there along the very edge, which is just nice. It makes adds a drop of elegance to an otherwise very utilitarian looking watch. At 3 o'clock, you have a crown. It measures 6 millimeters by 3 millimeters deep, which is a little small, but not too small. I think it could have gotten a little bit wider, but it's fine overall. And it is screw down, which is nice. This watch has a water resistance of 100 meters, which is is great. That it definitely makes it, it's definitely usable. I don't think you should be too worried about getting this wet in a shower or something like that. I don't know if you want to truly dive with it. It's not a dive watch, but it's good to have that water resistance there. One kind of clever thing about the design that I liked is you can see in the case back here, which is, by the way, just a screw down stainless polished steel with kind of an etched Orient logo in the center there, is that it has a very kind of chamfered shape to it. And what that does is kind of allows the watch to feel thinner than 12 millimeters. So it really feels on your wrist more like a 9 millimeter watch, which would be the thickness of this case plus the bezel. That's nice. It makes it more wearable and, just kind of a more streamlined look. Taking a look now at the dial, the Sparta has this kind of classic pilot field look, but with some interesting features to it. The first standout feature for me, and this is only on this model, there's 3 different colorways of this watch, but this one has a charcoal gray dial, and it's a very nice color, and it's something that I think you don't see very often, which is too bad because it actually is it's really nice. So it naturally is less harsh and contrasty than an all black dial. I think it actually kind of goes nicely with the steel of the bezel. It kind of flows into that color, the slightly lighter gray of steel a little bit more. And it also has a kind of, it's not a fake patina. Like it's not trying to look old, but by nature being gray, it feels a little bit like it's faded. And that works very nicely with some of the kind of more vintage elements of the design. So now just looking at the overall design, like I said, pilot field style. So you have this large minute index going around, very clear, very legible, and then a smaller hour index inside. It's a nice design for reading at a glance because the hour clearly connects directly to the hour index, whereas the minute goes beyond to the minute index, and also which doubles as a second index. And then also with the index of the bezel going around, that you have yet another set of numbers for reference. The most interesting feature of this watch, which frankly I actually didn't know how I was going to feel about it in person, is this large day window here. So this arcing shaped window here that runs from just past 9 to just before 3 shows the day at 12 and then the preceding day and the next day. And what's kind of bizarre about that, other than it shows all those days, is that it has these little yellow screens on it that kind of block it out. And it's a funny design, but honestly, in person, I really like it. It's definitely unique. It's I think it's like almost like a signature to this watch, and it's not distracting or weird. In fact, the little bit of color there kind of livens things up a little bit, and I think works really nicely. And then, just on top of that, you have this full day, date shown. So that's kind of interesting. Often on day dates, you just have the kind of abbreviated form at 3 o'clock. I think it's a little bit more decorative and just kind of an interesting thing to have that, once again, just separates this watch from the pack. The hands of the watch have a very vintage style to them. They're kind of like a syringe shape with kind of a flared design to them. So they definitely feel more from the kind of early 20th century than something more modern. All of the hands and all the numerals are loomed. It's an average loom, but it is functional. On the wrist, the Sparta is a quite comfortable watch that wears, I think, very nicely. It's a very handsome watch, I think. As I said, it's 42.5 millimeters, which is kind of a nice size for a watch with this kind of aesthetic. It's a little sporty. It's definitely masculine size, but the lug to lug isn't too long. So I actually think it fits my wrist very nicely. I have a 7-inch wrist, which is on the smaller side, and I think this is definitely a wearable size for me. And personally, I wouldn't even like to go much larger than this, though. But it is a nice, happy medium. As I had mentioned before, the watch kind of sits a little bit lower on the wrist than you might expect for a 12-millimeter watch due to the case back design. So it really is quite comfortable and really svelte. But yeah, just looking at the design, I think this watch is much more kind of handsome than a lot of the kind of military field watches tend to be, and I think a lot of that is due to the interesting color of the dial and the very nice bezel. It has just a little bit of elegance to it, a little bit more visual interest, and overall, nothing is flashy, nothing is weird. Even though it has that the kind of bizarre day window, it all just fits together very nicely. It's a very good, solid, well-designed kind of package of a watch. So, it's really great. This could definitely be a daily wear sort of watch for you. This version comes with, this kind of classic, almost oyster-style bracelet on it. You can also get, the other versions come with leather straps, but I think it's actually worth it considering the price of $196 to go for the bracelet version. It's actually quite a nice, substantially made bracelet. The links are solid, though for those of you who are interested in this, the end link is hollow. I know that is something that concerns some people, but once again, for the price, I think this is very good. It has a very solid double locking clasp on it, so you flip that open and then push those. Overall, a really great package, but given the design of this watch, it also will clearly look good on sort of a rugged leather strap, or what I'll show you in a second, on a nice nylon NATO. Clearly, the military look of the Sparta works really well with a nylon NATO. It also kind of, makes it a little less formal, a little more sporty, which also works really well with the design. Here I have it on a brown Maritac NATO, which I think actually has a particularly nice kind of pairing with the kind of charcoal gray dial. I think it just kind of shows the versatility of this watch. There's really, I don't think, a strap you could put on here that would be incorrect. You could even put a rubber strap on here if that is something you're interested in. It's a very versatile design. To wrap up, the Orient Sparta is another great affordable mechanical option from the Orient brand that I think offers a lot for the price. It's not a perfect watch. I don't think any watch is. The one kind of somewhat significant issue I'd have is that the day is a little annoying to set since you have to go through the hours. But in the scheme of things, it is a pretty minor nuisance. And if you're wearing this watch regularly, it isn't even something you would deal with. But for the price, like I said, after 30% coupon, this comes to $196, and that's including the bracelet. It's really just, I think a remarkably well-built and very nice-looking watch. For those of you who, are interested or into the Seiko 5 series, such as the SNZK and the SNZG, I think that this watch offers a really nice alternative. A slightly larger alternative too, at about 42.5 millimeters, and one with it's just a little different in every way. I don't think you're going to find a watch like this by any of those brands such as Hamilton or anyone else who make kind of classic field looking watches. So yeah, it's really terrific, and I really enjoyed this watch. Read the full review at wornandwound.com, and follow us on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook for more Worn and Wound.